Okay, welcome to this third and final presentation regarding the AS2 functionality that BlueSeer ERP provides. BlueSeer ERP version 6.3 was recently released, and the new feature, one of the new features, is AS2 functionality. BlueSeer is a free and open source ERP and EDI package, and therefore the AS2 functionality within here is also free to use. So feel free to go to the website at BlueSeer.com, download the package, and give it a spin. Give the AS2 functionality a spin. One of the other features that has been introduced in version 6.3 is also a Cron service, a scheduling service to schedule jobs in the background. And those two pieces there are what we're going to talk about in this third and final installment. We're going to talk about automating the AS2 transactions for both inbound and outbound so that you don't have to manually push these AS2 files out. So we're going to set up an automated job, and then we're going to set up a scheduling job to execute AS2 transactions. Okay, with that said, one of the things you have to do to get the AS2 functionality to work, one of the services is a listening service. You have to initiate a listening service in the background. And this job has to be running 24/7 so that it is sitting there listening for AS2 transmissions from your trading partner. Now, AS2 is a push system, so they have to push to you and then you have to push to them as far as transactions. You can manually push a file to them with the AS2 maintenance program, or you can do it on a scheduling job, as we're going to discuss now. But with regards to receiving transactions, you have to have the AS2 listening service set up. This command here is the actual service command to execute in the background, and we have done that here. This command is also the same command you would use for a Windows deployment as well. So this job is now running, and this service is running in the background. So let's fire up BlueSeer. And we're going to take a quick look at the AS2 maintenance menu. The navigation code for AS2 maintenance is AS2M, as we've discussed in the previous presentations. And again, we're going to look at our default loopback test, 999, which is provided with every download of BlueSeer. It's already pre-configured in the download. And it is our loopback test. This is a test where we're actually pushing an AS2 transaction and we're sending it to ourselves. So our listener is going to receive it. So it's really two transactions in one. So what we're going to do today is set this 999 job up on a scheduled service to run in the background. So let's talk about the scheduled service. The scheduled service is called a cron service, and that's not to be confused with the Linux operating system cron tool that is provided. This is I'm calling it cron service, but it runs off of the Quartz Java library. And so this is an implementation of that Quartz library. And to get to that menu is CRON for cron. And this is the maintenance menu. And to get to see the browse of all the cron jobs you have set up is CROND. And we have two already set up. So let's go back to the maintenance again. Sorry. Okay, so this is the location where you set up a job to run in the background. That job can be pretty much any executable that you want to run, but you run it in the background at a specific frequency as defined by the expression here. So let's walk through an example here. Click New. We're going to call this job 999 AS2 for our 999 partner. This is arbitrary. You can call it whatever you want. AS2 scheduling job for our loopback 999. And the group can be any group. This is arbitrary as well. I'm going to call it EDI. And the job class has to be specific. For this job, you have to choose the job AS2 class. Now this field here is important. The parameters field for this class here defines which trading partner, AS2 trading partner, you're going to run. So we're going to run 999. So essentially this job is going to look in the source directory of 999 trading partner, and if it sees any files, it's going to push those files out on whatever frequency we define here. Let's set up a priority 1, and this is basically what is called a cron expression. These fields are delimited by space, and they represent minutes, seconds, day of the week, month, etc. And I'll show you what those actually are. But for example, this, to run it every 5 minutes, 0, 0/5. And this is the second field is the minutes field. And then star, 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 because there's 6 elements to the cron expression. But this cron expression here is going to run every 5 minutes. This cron expression here is running every 2 hours. So this third field is the hour field, but the asterisks indicate run it for every hour. So this expression is going to run every 5 minutes. Actually, we're going to set this to every 2 minutes. And then we're going to click enable, and then we're going to click add. So this job will run every 2 minutes once we have the cron service running. So now let's go back to our terminal and look at, so we set up here, we set up the AS2 service, the API server listening for AS2 transactions. We're also going to run the same command, but we're going to run it for a cron server. And there's really 2 types of services that BlueSeer has to run in the background. One is the API server if you're going to do AS2 transactions, and the other is the cron server, which will accept scheduled jobs as we just saw, and will process those in the background. I'm going to set that, actually I'm going to run that in the background, but I want it to come to, I want to be able to see the records. So we're going to run it in the background, but it should spit it out to standard out. I have everything else, utilities, cron service, that looks good. Okay, and that's the output that you're going to get here. So what it's doing now is it says job key EDI 999 AS2, which is the job we just set up, and it's starting that cron job at 1440. So let's go back to our AS2 log. See what we have here. Last job that ran was at 1411. So we expect that job to run at what time? Every minute a watchdog is actually looking at the cron service to determine what jobs it needs to run. So within a minute here we should see, oh here it is right here. AS2 loopback test, here's our test right here, 999 AS2. The next time it'll run will be at 1442. So that's scheduled every 2 minutes. There is a minute or 2 delay in when this job actually kicks off, particularly if you change the jobs in the cron maintenance window. There could be a minute or 2 delay, and that's basically the latency of the cron server itself. We click run here again. So we're expecting this thing to trigger at 1442, and the timestamp right now is 1441, so we got a minute. So while we are waiting for that job to run in the background, let's look at here's the Quartz library in their website, and it defines that cron expression. So this is more information of what special characters are allowed in each field. You'll notice that there are 7 fields here, but I never use this one here. The first field is seconds, minutes, hours, day of month, and day of week. And these are the special characters you can put in it. This website here will give you some examples of the expression that you can use for various options that you want to do, for various time frequencies that you want to do. If you want to run every day, if you want to run every hour of every day, etc. And it's important to note that this cron expression is slightly different than the Linux cron expression. So if you happen to go to another website that just says talking about cron, you will see that each implementation is a little bit different in how they express the cron format. So our timestamp is 1442. This guy should have fired. So let's go look at our run, and we did. We got a new transaction. So what happened here is at 1442, we've got these actions that occurred for that job. So it tried to push out a file, but it says, there's no files in the output directory. So what we can do is go put a file in that output directory while we're waiting on the next event, which will be in 2 minutes. Where am I at here? BlueSeer, EDI AS2. There's nothing in the out directory right now. We're going to go to the in directory. We're going to copy over this empty text. We're going to go back to the out directory, and we're going to paste that in there. So now the next time this thing runs in less than a minute, it's 1443 now, we should see this file disappear from the directory and get transferred over, assuming that everything else is set up correctly. While we're waiting for that, we'll go back to the cron B, for Cron Browse, and you could this essentially shows you all the fields that are associated with the Cron maintenance of each Cron job that you set up. But it'll also give you the last runtime as well. So obviously here's our job here, and the last runtime was at 1442. Notice it just turned 1444, so if we do this again, and there, timestamp has already changed to 1444. So this transaction has run again. So let's go to AS2 list, or log, click run again, and there's our success. So it actually moved a file, and the directory and the file has been removed from this directory and placed in the destination directory. And here's the successful transaction. We talked about why there's two transactions here in the second installment. That is because we're doing a loopback test. We're both pushing out and we're actually receiving the file in at the same time. So that's essentially it. This job will continue to run the next 2 minutes. Since there's no files in there, you'll get a yellow, and then 2 more minutes later you'll get another yellow. And then it'll continue to run until you stop the job. Now to stop the job, you can go back to Cron B, and it'll bring you back to this specific record, and you can click Enabled, or uncheck the enabled box, click Update, and then that job will cease to run in the next event. So that's it. That's the automation of the AS2 transactions. Again, the AS2 functionality and this cron service are relatively new additions to the software. We expect some growing pains, so if you do find any bugs or any problems with it, or if you got any feedback at all, feel free to reach out to BlueSeer.com at the contacts page, and more importantly, go to the, particularly if you find bugs, go to the project source site on GitHub and issue in a ticket for a bug, and we will get to it as soon as we can. So feel free to download it, use it. It is free. Thank you, and enjoy the software.